Welcome to the Seattle Sports Union Podcast. I'm your host, Matt, the absolutely delightful duck, contrary to belief, popular belief. I'm back again with Brian the Soulman Solack, and joining a shout out to I got a shout out to Abraham DeWeese on the boards. And joining us this week, we got a very special guest. We've got from FutureStarSeries.com and all over some sports journalism over the years. We got Joe Doyle joining us again. Welcome back to the show, Joe.
How you guys doing, Brian, Matt? Good to see you. Abraham behind the boards,
behind the screen.
Welcome back. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we had you on last year, right? Actually, like
right around this time.
Around here, yeah,
July maybe. But yeah, we noticed. So I want to dive right in. You're with FutureStarSeries.com now. Did Jason Churchill have to twist your arm to get you to join? What made you switch over?
Yeah, I think I was just looking for a new challenge with some just some new opportunities. You know, the guy that runs Future Stars, the guy that owns the company, used to be a big scout for the Mariners, and I've known him for I think four years now, and I trust him and I trust Jason, and you know, the three of us get along really, really well. So I just figured this was a good opportunity to kind of expand my horizons a little bit. It's been great.
We'll get around to there's all kinds of draft stuff and Mariners stuff. But I don't know why I wanted to talk about it first. It's permanent in my mind. Because we're looking forward to it here in a week. We're gonna go, or 2 weeks, we're gonna go up north here. I was wondering if you pay any attention to the collegiate leagues in the summers. You know, we were big fans of the Bellingham Bells here at SSU. And we promote them every year and get to go up there and cheer them on. Do you guys follow them, and is there any kind of weight put behind their performances there?
Big time, yeah. So I will say, just there's not the West Coast League with the Bellingham Bells, and it doesn't generally pull the premier talent in the country, but it does pull a lot of very talented kids from the West Coast and some of the smaller schools over here. I love watching West Coast League baseball. And actually, kind of a funny story. If you're going to be at the Walla Walla Sweets game on July 16th, I'm throwing out the first onion. So really, my father-in-law is the voice of the Walla Walla Sweets. Oh. So if you're ever in the stadium, Jim Wilson is my father-in-law. So yeah, no, I pay a lot of attention to it. I pay more attention for the draft side of things and just like prospects with the Cape Cod League and the Northwoods League in the upper Midwest. But I think if you're looking for just a very, very wholesome brand of baseball and kind of like quintessential, like the way baseball should be built, like the fabric of the sport, West Coast League baseball is the best, and Summer League wood bat baseball is the best.
I have a question from our producer, Mr. DeWeese, asking, is that the same Walla Walla Sweets owned by Jeff Cirillo?
So yes, it is. I think Jeff sold his stake in the team like 2 years ago, but John Stanton, the owner of the Seattle Mariners, owns a huge majority of it. So I mean, if anyone doesn't think that John Stanton is a baseball fan, he also owns the Walla Walla Sweets. And I'll tell you, like, West Coast League baseball is not a profitable venture by any means. It's a love of the sport type of thing. So, yeah, Jeff Cirillo, John Stanton, there's a bunch of guys out there that have kind of Seattle ties.
Yeah, no, if I remember correctly, the Portland Pickles are owned by John Ryan, the former Seahawks punter.
Yep. That's correct.
I've got his jersey. I always had to get the weird player.
You have
jersey.
A John Ryan Pickles jersey?
No, Seahawks.
So that would be a hell of an item.
Now I wish I had one. Yeah,
I know.
Awesome.
Should have worn my Sweets hat. I've actually got here we go. I got throwback Lou right here for anybody that's watching.
Oh, that's
nice.
Awesome. That is wonderful.
Little bobble potato.
I'm actually going to a Sweets game. It's our last homestand in August.
Nice.
Finally get a chance to check them out. they're playing the Pickles, but I'm gonna go in my full Bells gear because
there you go.
Go Bells.
West Coast League, there are no winners, there are no losers. It's just fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Brian, I think you had a question here about.
I do. Fan of our show and fellow guest Brian Green, not to be mistaken of the Brian Austin Green of Beverly Hills 90210 back in the 90s, has recently moved on to Wichita State to replace former Mariner manager Eric Wedge. What are your thoughts on that? Is that a good move for him?
It's a great move for Wichita State. Not a good move for the Cougs. It's a big loss for the Cougs. Brian's a great guy. I've talked to Brian a couple of times, and just everything that you're looking for in a small town coach. Just the ultimate mentor, educator, motivator. Really kind of puts more of an emphasis on being a good person on top of being a good ball player. And I think he did wonders for Washington State in terms of like bringing in high quality transfers and developing up freshmen and putting that program in a better place than it had probably been since I was in school, which was like 2006, 2007, 2008. So he's going to be missed. But in terms of, going from one WSU to another WSU, the Shockers have a good one, man. They got a good one.
Who's this guy? Who's this guy? Nathan Choate or whatever, who's coming in? Can you tell us a little bit about him?
So I actually haven't gotten the chance to speak with Nathan yet, but I'll say this. I won't say anything about Nathan Choate yet, but Washington State was able to retain Jake Valentine. He's their recruiting coordinator and their assistant coach. Okay. The school is going to be in very, very good hands with Valentine sticking around. He's got a fantastic eye for talent, and he's done a great job in developing the players that they've brought on campus. So as long as Jake Valentine sticks around, he's going to be a fantastic asset for Nathan Choate. And I think Choate's got a strong resume of his own. So it should be, I don't expect the Cougs to take a huge step back, and it doesn't look like they've lost too much firepower to the transfer portal yet. So with the exception of Elijah Hainline. So we'll see what happens, man. I'm a Coug through and through.
I was going to ask, you brought up Elijah. That was my next question. Another fan of the Seattle Sports Union, but
yeah,
I hate to lose this guy. Is this going to make a huge effect or not really? Or, I mean, is this better for his career to move on? Or
it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. Elijah, at Future Stars, I've taken a long look at Elijah. He looks to me like a guy that could go in like the 4th, 5th, or 6th round in 2024. I think he's going to be a very good player. It's just hard to find a shortstop that can play shortstop and actually hit for power. I mean, those guys don't grow on trees. I will say this. They landed a shortstop out of Oregon State, but maybe this was your next question. They landed a shortstop out of Oregon State who I had ranked as a top 6 rounder out of high school by the name of Eli Kennel. I'm assuming he's going to slide right in and become the everyday shortstop or second baseman. And we'll see if Kyle Russell sticks around and plays the middle infielder if he goes pro. But the Cougs should be fine. They're going to miss that power from the shortstop position, but they've got 2 very capable infielders.
That's great news to hear. I got to bring up former Coug Kyle Manzardo. He's going to be playing in the MLB Futures game here in a couple of weeks, or I believe it's actually next weekend, but
next Saturday.
Our own Abraham is an anti-Coug, and basically his response was, "Oh, he'll Coug it. He won't make the majors." I mean, tell us why Kyle Manzardo has a future.
Abraham, I had such nice things to say about you before this show started.
His comment was, "Sounds like something I would say." So he's admitting to it.
Ouch. I mean, listen, if you're ever going to bet on a guy that is like to make the big leagues, I would just bet on the guy that doesn't, and this is no disrespect to Kyle. I would bet on the guy that doesn't have a whole lot of tools besides how impressive the bat is. Like, he's a first baseman, not a great runner, not a great defender. The guy just mashes. He hits lefties, he hits righties, he hits velocity, he hits spin. I was surprised that he went as early as he did. I was hearing reports in that draft that he was going to go in the top 60 picks or so, and I think he went to Tampa right around there, but it still surprised me. So he'll definitely be in the big leagues, and he might be in the big leagues this year. It's kind of hard to bet against a guy that can only hit.
Love to hear that. Right on.
He's got a sweet mustache too.
Yeah, he does.
We have another question from our producer. Do you feel that there's a greater emphasis on College World Series this year than in the past? I mean, it seems like there's a lot more media coverage and a lot more focus on it than ever before.
Well, listen, college baseball is definitely on the way up. It's been steadily climbing every year. ESPN's expanded coverage of college baseball as a whole is really doing wonders. The fact that the College World Series had the top 3 prospects for this draft in the final 3 games was a huge win for the sport. Can you imagine how much different the College World Series would have been if it was, TCU and Oral Roberts? No disrespect to those programs, and they've got good prospects. But the fact that you could put on primetime television 3 times Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz, and Wyatt Langford, and you got to throw in Hurston Waldrop, there could not have been a better situation for college baseball. And it does feel a little bit like college baseball and subsequently the MLB draft. I think both of those are steadily climbing and climbing. I think the casual fan is taking to those sports a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see. Good for the sport. Good for the players. You might as well move on here and skip ahead to our talk about the draft. Mariners are the star of the show for the day one. 3 picks, first 30. Is that the kind of draft that will make or break a franchise? I mean, that's huge. How often does that kind of power happen?
Very, very, very rarely. I went back and I did some research on how often that happens, and I couldn't find too many other examples. I know that the Arizona Diamondbacks had 3 top 30 picks, and I think it was 2016. But besides that, you just don't see it very often, especially with, well, I won't get into the rules of Major League Baseball and how contracts and compensatory picks go. But yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity, especially in a draft like this draft that is so deep with high school talent, and it's so impressive with college talent. Like, this is, I know Jerry DePoto came out on a podcast today and said that this is the deepest draft he's ever seen. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do think it's the best top 100 players that I've ever seen. Like, the guys that you can get in the 3rd round this year, last year would have gone at the top of the 2nd round. It's like, it's pretty considerable. Yeah. I'll put it this way. They're definitely going to get like 3 guys that would have gone in the top 20 last year, in the top 30 this year. And I would imagine that 57th pick would probably have been like a top 40 pick last year. So the amount of talent they're going to be able to shove into this organization in a time when the organization needs to have the assets to trade for players that are big league ready, I don't think it could have come at a better time.
Okay.
I want to ask. So you run a podcast, which we want to promote obviously for you, Overslot, and it's available on Patreon. I wondered if you wanted to touch real quick on and explain it to us, because I mean, even a big baseball fan like myself, I'm still kind of, how do I put this? I don't totally understand exactly how the draft works. The overslot, underslot, players, like where they go, and that has to do with what they'll be signed or what they're projected to sign for.
Kinda.
Most people understand the NFL draft. You pick a player, and then that it's pretty straightforward. But with the MLB draft, there's that added wrinkle. I wondered if you could tell our fans just a brief summary of how it works.
The nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
So basically, every single pick in the MLB draft in the first 10 rounds has a value attached to it. So let's say the first pick has a value of $8 million. The second pick, and these are just rounded numbers, so it's easy. The first pick, $8 million. The second pick, $7.5 million. The third pick, $7 million. So and you can only spend a certain amount of money in the entire draft. So let's say all of your top 10 picks add up to a total value of $16 million. You can find any ways that you want to spend that $16 million. You can't go over. There are some stipulations where you can, but for the most part, you can't go over. And it's the easiest way to accrue value in the draft. So everyone always wants to go right up to the amount of money they can spend. And every team has a different amount based on where you pick in the draft. So the idea with the MLB draft and what makes it so fascinating and why nobody can ever get a mock draft right is because let's say you had the third pick and that pick has a bonus value of $7 million. Well, wait, maybe there's a college pitcher that you really like. But he has already said it's not going to require that much. He would require $5.5 million to sign at the third pick. So you draft him with the third pick, you save that $1.5 million, and you can spend that extra money elsewhere in the draft. And that comes into play with high schoolers because high schoolers have the leverage of being able to go to college. And if you can go to college, you can just say, no, I won't sign for whatever you're going to try and pay me. I'm going to go to school. But if you have that leftover money, it allows you to convince more high schoolers to get drafted. So it's what makes the MLB draft so interesting. Like Dylan Cruz, I think most people would say is the best player available in this draft. If Dylan Cruz is going to cost the full amount of money, if he's standing firm and saying, I won't sign for $1 less than the quote unquote 8 million that first pick is worth, maybe it makes more sense to go and draft Paul Skeens because Paul Skeens will sign for $7 million and you have an extra $1 million to spend elsewhere in the draft. So it's a numbers game. It's a money game. I hate it when people call teams cheap for going under slot. It's not cheap. It's strategy. It's adding more prospects with more value instead of just one really good prospect. So fascinating exercise in roster building and economics and everything in between. I love it. And that's what makes the Mariners draft so valuable this year. It's not that they have 3 top 30 picks. It's that they have 3 picks in the first round that might be worth 4 million, 3.8 million, and 3.6 million. So that's like 11.5 million to spend in the first round. Well, every other team has, 4.5 million, 5 million. Mariners have 11.5 million to spread out however they choose.
With that said, piggybacking on what you just said, I mean, what are your thoughts? Do the Mariners go after the 3 best available? Do they go after 2 high school and 1 college? I mean, how do they go about this?
Hard to say. I think I have a hard time seeing them select 3 high school players because high school players are inherently more volatile. There's more risk. You're talking about teenagers. They haven't faced college competition. They haven't seen upper tier stuff. They're high school players. That being said, if you look at, they're still growing. Yeah. I mean, these guys are going to put on 25 more pounds of muscle. Like, how's their body going to work? That being said, if you look at rosters in Major League Baseball, it is specifically position players. It's very difficult to find headline superstar talent that was drafted as a college player. There's a lot of role players, a lot of solid starters that were college players. Pete Alonso, he was a college player. But for the most part, the Alex Rodriguez's, the Francisco Lindors, the Byron Buxtons, they all got drafted as high schoolers because they're generational talents. And so I think Seattle will probably take a couple of shots at the superstar apple, draft a couple of high schoolers in the first round, and then have a little bit of peace of mind, a little bit of safety, and take a college slugger that they think might be able to move fast and contribute in 2025 to the big league club.
Okay.
That's my best guess. It's my best guess. It's the best I can do, guys.
Are there any wild card players, players that you really like that, we should keep an eye on regardless of where they go in the draft? Just guys that you've got to have a few favorites in your back pocket that you just
of course
really rooting for,
Yeah, I mean, the guy that really stands out for me is a shortstop out of Strawberry Crest High School in Florida by the name of Arjun Namala. There are 0 Indian baseball players in Major League Baseball. He is of Indian descent. He grew up playing cricket. He played cricket 10 months out of the year up until about his sophomore year of high school, and then he really kind of got into baseball. He's one of the very, very rare talents that has massive power at the shortstop position. I mean like a potential shortstop who can hit 35 bombs. So that is not funny, Abraham. So yeah, I mean, he's my favorite just because I love the idea of a kid growing up playing cricket, switching and taking to baseball, becoming a top 15 pick, and then just being a shortstop that hits like 30 bombs a year. Like, that's so sick. That'd be so cool to see happen.
Nice.
Have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, definitely. I got to ask one or two Cougs that stand out to you that may get drafted and at top 10 rounds or top 20 rounds, whatever.
Yeah, not a lot on the Coug front this year. They do have a reliever by the name of Chase Grillo, who I think could go in the third day, round 11 through 20. He's got a really good slider, and I think that'll ultimately get him picked. Besides that, like I brought up Kyle Russell, I don't think he has enough impact in his bat, and I don't think he's quite a strong enough shortstop to go in the top 10 rounds. So probably a light year for the Cougs, a little bit better year for the Huskies, maybe, but kind of just a light year in the Pacific Northwest on the college side.
No Ducks. So I have to.
No, there will definitely be Ducks taken.
Okay.
There's a third baseman at Oregon named Sabin Caballos. You probably have seen him play. That guy's a monster. He's got huge power. He's got a huge arm. He's only 20 years old, which I think is extremely rare to find from a college player in the draft that's draft eligible. He'll certainly be picked. And then there's some other guys like Colby Shade, who I think could be picked. Tanner Smith could be picked. Like some more role players, but Caballos probably goes in the top 100 picks.
Who from the UW stands out, though? I got to ask.
Yeah, I think Will Simpson has a chance to get picked. He's the right field first baseman. I still think he's like a day 3 guy. I think Johnny Tincher, the catcher, has a chance. He's really interesting too. I mean, he's like 5'7", 5'8", just hits. I'm 5'7", I'm 5'8". There's no way I'd hit 10 home runs in the Pac-12 this year. So I like Johnny Tincher. Those two are the ones that really stand out. UW's got a really young team. Kiefer Lord, of course, I should have brought him up. I think Kiefer Lord goes in the top 5 rounds, and Case Matter, their reliever, probably goes in the top 12 rounds. So UW's got some good pieces this year that should get popped.
Okay. Well, I do want to ask about a couple players from the past from the state of Washington. How's J.R. Ritchie doing in the Atlanta organization?
Yeah, unfortunately, JR had Tommy John surgery about a month ago. Yeah,
okay.
so he and that's the thing with these high school talents, like they haven't been stress tested like the college guys have. So there's more risk there with pitching. So yeah, he underwent Tommy John surgery, probably won't pitch for the Atlanta organization until like next August. He might get back on the mound for the last month of the season, but he's effectively going to miss 2 years, which is a bummer because I know JR well. He's one of the nicest just genuine prospects I've ever talked to. So I'm rooting for him.
Absolutely. How about Malachi Knight? How did he do this year with UCLA?
Better. 2022 was a learning year for Malachi. He put on good weight this year, hit for a much better average, still playing center field, hit for a little bit more power. He's draft eligible in 2024. I think he's the type of athlete that could see a spike, but right now I think he's probably like a 5th or a 6th or a 7th rounder next year if nothing changes. But he's always been a freaky, twitchy athlete, so it wouldn't surprise me if he snuck into like the top 3 rounds.
Okay.
Yeah, we were pretty impressed with him when we met him when he was with the Bells.
Yeah. Yep. UCLA sends a lot of guys for one reason or another. They send a lot of guys to the West Coast League. Cody Schreier went.
Well, half the roster of the Bells is from UCLA.
Yeah, but they pull them also. Sometimes they only play for a week, sometimes they don't. I think Travis Bazzana was still playing in the West Coast League for like a week, and then he just went to the Cape. So yeah, I mean, the West Coast League pulls some pretty impressive West Coast talent year over year, and I don't know why they send so much from UCLA. It just happens.
That's all right.
We always have that.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
When we're going to the Bells games, we're like, okay, how many guys on the roster are you from UCLA this year? 8, 9, 10, how many?
And it's not just like the bench guys that are trying to get reps because they didn't get a lot of reps in season. It's like the starting shortstop, the starting center fielder, like their Sunday arm. It's like, geez, like what are you guys doing up here?
Yeah. Are you this? How do I phrase this? But are you aware who Will Franklin is? He pitches for Edmonds Community College, and he's on Bellingham's this year.
I'm not, but I'll keep an eye out for the name, and hopefully I catch him against the Sweets.
Okay, please do. He was signed to a 10-day contract, and they extended it for the full season. And pretty much he's their closer. And maybe I'm biased, but one of my friends, it's his son. And I mean, the guy's little guy, 6 foot maybe, but he throws hard, and he's looking for somebody to give him a chance at the bigger level. So
I'll take a look. Yeah, I mean, the one thing about pitching in these summer ball leagues, and this applies to everybody, including Franklin, is it's especially if you're a community college guy, those schools in most cases don't have TrackMan, they don't have data collection equipment, but you go play in the West Coast League and suddenly like we can measure the ride on your fastball, the spin on your curveball. And when college coaches get their hands on that sort of thing, it can turn into a scholarship offer like that. So I'll have to keep my eye out and see what he's worth.
Outstanding. I appreciate that. One last question real quick. You and I talked about, and I believe on Messenger, but Josh Latimer, do you remember him?
I do.
Did you hear what happened to him?
I have not. What's going on with Josh?
It was last season. He got hit with a line drive in the face and he had to have like reconstructive surgery, and he went through a hell of a lot. And I just was curious if you heard anything about it. I think it might have ended his career.
Hung it up.
Yeah. I haven't heard. And actually I remember that conversation with you. Now that I think about it, I haven't heard anything of Josh Latimer in the last, especially this season. So hopefully he's doing okay.
Absolutely.
So we have a question from the producer, Abraham. He wants to know how you managed to keep all these names and people and everything in your head.
Guys, I have no idea. I don't have an answer for that. Like, if you guys saw the behind the scenes at my workstation, like I was talking to Jason Churchill about this the other day, and this 2023 draft, I think it's 947 players turned in with scouting reports, which is crazy in and of itself. But 2024, I just looked, I have 477 players already turned in for the 2024 draft. And I have 291 for 2025. Like, I think it's just the repetitive nature of going in and writing and reading and watching film and just like letting it consume 20 to 25 hours of my week. I think when you're just constantly plugged into it, it gets ingrained in you. It's not healthy. Certainly not. My wife loves it.
Well, speaking of not healthy, that's the perfect segue. In my judgment, the Mariners farm system at the moment, I have some questions. I think we both do. Maybe not healthy is the wrong word. I don't know. It's
okay.
It's mediocre, I guess, at this point.
It's thriving. It's just young. It's very young.
It's very young. What do you feel is the biggest weakness of the system right now?
Oh, it's definitely bats that are close. Yeah. It's definitely bats that are close. I'll tell you what, a bigger weakness might actually be arms that are close. It's just proximity prospects in general. I mean, Seattle does not have a next up bat. They do not have a guy on the horizon that is close to debuting. I mean, Cade Marlowe is 26, 27 years old. Yeah. I wouldn't really consider him like a premium prospect by any means. They've gone through the Taylor Trammell thing. Yeah,
we were talking about this before the show, actually. What about Zach DeLoach? Why isn't he getting a chance?
I mean, he's a 25, 26-year-old. I think he might be 24. I might be giving him a hard time. The issue with DeLoach is he's a corner outfielder who's striking out a ton. It has come down a little bit, but he's striking out a ton. He is taking his walks. Not a terribly great runner, just kind of an average runner. He's destined for left field at the next level, and he doesn't provide a ton of power. So I think like if you're holding up Zach DeLoach next to a guy like Taylor Trammell, I mean, if you need an outfielder, Trammell's got more power. Trammell's faster. He can play center field. He's already on the 40-man roster. It's just, and the same exact thing can be said about Cade Marlowe. Cade Marlowe's a better base runner. He's a better, it's pretty close in terms of who's the better outfielder between DeLoach and Marlowe. But the issue is like there are left-handed hitting outfielders in front of him with better tools and that are already on the 40-man roster. So he's always going to be fighting an uphill battle. For me, and I don't mean to go on a tangent here, but for me, he's fitting into that Joe Rizzo role from last year, where it was like, this guy isn't performing poorly, but there's nowhere to put him. And he's getting older. So I kind of think that Zach DeLoach might ultimately end up needing a change of scenery just to get a cup of coffee.
That's a shame because, I mean, yeah, you make a good point about the 40-man roster, but it's like, I mean, the other guys haven't shown they can hit at the major league level, and at this point, it's like, why not? I mean,
but I would say
DH. We need a DH. We need
fair.
the Mariners need any hitter, anyone who can actually hit, you know?
But here would be my counter. Like, Mike Ford came up to DH. He's striking out a whole bunch. But Mike Ford had like a 12% strikeout rate in Tacoma. Zach DeLoach is at like 29%, 28%. It's more than double. So it's like, it's not like, oh, we should just give him a chance and like, let's see what happens. It's like, who are you going to release? You have to cut someone to bring up Zach DeLoach. You have to jettison someone from the organization to give Zach DeLoach that quote unquote screw it chance. So you might as well just call up Trammell. You know, Trammell can run. He can play center field.
Very good point. I got a few names I'm going to quickly mention, and hopefully you're going to say all of them, but Cole Young, Gabe Moncada, Gabby Gonzalez, Josh Hood, Michael Morales. Who do you think we will see in Everett before the summer is over?
Cole Young will be in Everett probably within a week of the MLB draft ending. Well, you got to think about it. The Seattle Mariners are going to inject 22 new names into the organization on July 9th, 10th, and 11th. Mm-hmm. They need to make space for those guys. And I would be pretty stunned if one of those names isn't a shortstop in some capacity, whether that be Colt Emerson, or we can get into those names. But because that is going to happen, they got to make room. And Cole Young has done everything he needs to at Modesto to prove that he's ready for the next step. So he'll get moved. Gabriel Gonzalez, he's still just like 19. Like, I don't know if there's a huge rush. Cole Young's only 20, but he would probably be my next one. Who else you got there?
Gabe Moncada, Josh Hood, or Michael Morales?
I think Michael Morales is going to be on a bit of an innings limit this season, so I don't know if he's going to get pushed too hard. Again, just another. He might not be 20 yet. He might still be 19, or maybe he's 20 now. You could see Morales moved up. He's had a great year. So Cole Young and Morales probably get a cup of coffee. I don't think Gabe Moncada gets a cup of coffee just because, I don't know, he's a bit of a tweener profile. I will say Tyler Locklear getting hurt probably does give Moncada a slight chance of getting the call to Everett. And then I'm sorry, Josh Hood has been hurt, so I don't think they're going to press him too hard. And yeah, so I think that's all of them.
Okay.
I was going to say, who do you think, because they just promoted Michael Flynn yesterday. So we might see a pitcher brought up to Everett here to replace him. Any idea?
I don't know. I mean, that might have been an injury replacement. They don't report injuries at the minor league level unless it's a serious prospect. When's the last time you got on Twitter and you saw that, you know, like I'm just using this guy as an example. Like you would never see like Stephen Kolek has forearm discomfort, right? He just has forearm discomfort, and we find out at the end of the year why he hasn't pitched for 3 months. Like a perfect example, Taylor Dollard missed almost the entire season and almost nobody talked about it up until like a week ago. So it's probably a situation where they just needed another arm. Michael Flynn can fill a number of different roles. I tell you a guy that could get called up is Marcelo Perez. I think he could be up in Everett here in the not too distant future.
Okay. Andrew Miller, catcher, another Andrew Miller for the organization. Is he just another name, a spot filler, or what?
Yeah, I think he's just an org guy. I think they've got some interesting catchers. That Tatum Levins is a very interesting player, even though he's kind of split time between first base and catcher. The guy that I'm looking at, the guy that is hitting and hitting and hitting, I don't know if he's going to catch, is Freudy Batista. He's down in Modesto right now. I think he's in Modesto. That guy just hits every year. Like he hit last year. He was the best hitter in the Arizona Complex League when he was there. A lot of people don't think that he can catch. Like he's not going to be able to stay behind the plate. But that's a guy that I would just watch. Like if he gets up to Everett and you're up there, you know, twice a week, man, this Freudy Batista guy, he just keeps hitting and hitting and hitting. Who is this? That would be the name I would circle. Watch out for.
Okay.
So back on Cole Young coming up, who would, I mean, would he push Axel Sanchez? Would he, or I listened to you on the Locked On Mariners podcast earlier this week, and you mentioned that they've been putting Cole at second for a while.
They've been rotating him. Yeah, so they've been rotating. Well, they've been rotating him and Arroyo.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to continue that with Young, or do they see him? Do you see him not sticking it at short necessarily?
The thing about Cole Young isn't that he's a incapable shortstop.
Yeah.
It's that on every good team, there's a well above average shortstop. Like JP Crawford may have his nights where he doesn't look great and you might have an error, but you watch him move and you watch how fluid he is and how athletic he is and the balls that he's able to get to. It's not about necessarily making the play all the time. If you're the shortstop, you got to make all the routine plays, but it's the balls that you have to be able to get to. It's the ones that you're charging in on and you have to be able to make that tough throw. It's the ones you're moving to the right and you got to make that jump throw. Not everyone can make those plays. And while Cole Young could be a very average shortstop at the next level, he could play the position like Dylan Moore, for example. Dylan Moore plays a solid shortstop. He's not going to blow you away. He's not going to make the wow play. So I think what they're doing by moving Cole Young to second base is just exposing him to different positions, because chances are when he does arrive, there's going to be another player at shortstop for Seattle that's just a more premium athlete. It's nothing against Cole Young as a shortstop. He can play it, and he will play it probably 20 times a year when someone needs a breather. But getting him reps on both second base and shortstop needs to be a priority.
Abraham wants to know, we a couple of years ago we blinked and Julio was gone that quickly in front of us at Everett. Who should we next be on the lookout for on that level? Anyone come to mind? Like
the next Julio Rodriguez, or the next cup of coffee in Everett?
Next crazy, really good, potential. I mean, star basically.
Potential star. Oh man, that's a tough one. I don't know if this organization has a potential star right now. I do think that there is that possibility exists with Michael Arroyo. I should say he could be a star. I don't think he could be a superstar, and that's nothing against Michael Arroyo, but there's not a lot of star or superstars that you see that are 5'10", 190 pounds, right? It's not a superstar frame. I do think that if you were looking for the other side of the conversation where you're like, who's going to just have the cup of coffee in Everett and then be gone? Like poof. I think there's a decent chance that Cole Young arrives to Everett like August 1st, and then he debuts in Arkansas in 2024. Like, I think that possibility exists. And, maybe that happens with Michael Arroyo too, but this organization right now just doesn't have a superstar caliber. Maybe it's Felny and Celestin. That's 2 years from now.
Who I was going to ask about next. Yeah, I can never remember how to say his name properly, but yes.
Yeah, he's easy to forget with the injury and having not played, and but that's probably the closest bet that you have to a superstar.
I want to do a real quick lightning round on some players that we like and we're curious what your thoughts are.
Cool.
I'm looking at the list right now, and they're all either soon to be Aqua Sox or former Aqua Sox. We'll start with Jonathan Clase. What do you think?
I love Jonathan Clase. He's like, I think I've said this to other people. He's turned himself into like pint-sized Joey Gallo, where it's just like strikeouts, home runs, stolen bases, and he's like this 3 true outcome guy. Like him. If he wants to be a full-time Mariner, if he wants to be the starting left fielder, starting right fielder at any point in his career, he has to cut the strikeouts down by, 7, 8, 9%.
All right. Alberto Rodriguez.
He had a really hot start to the year. I question whether or not this is just another one of those guys that, it's 5'10", it's 195 pounds, like those guys. And Gabriel Gonzalez is in the same boat. Like, they're built like strong fire hydrants. Like, Cole Calhoun, for example.
Yeah.
Cole Calhoun was a really, really good player for a long time, but he was never a star. And I think that's kind of with Alberto Rodriguez, with Gabriel Gonzalez, with some of these like thick, broad built guys. I think that's kind of what you hope they become, is like these just solid regulars.
Axel Sanchez.
I love the glove. That kid can really, really pick it.
Yeah.
He could play shortstop. Like, that's the type of guy, like, you watch Cole Young play shortstop and you're like, man, that's solid. And then you watch Axel Young play shortstop and you're like, I'm not sure Cole Young could do that. So he needs to hit. There's a lot of swing and miss in his game, but he showed a lot last year that I think points to what he's capable of. And that's another guy that it's like, I think if they can get the hit tool to average, he could be what they wanted Edwin Arroyo to be. We'll see if that's possible.
Yeah, I worry about him losing at bats to Cole Young. He needs to work on the bat. That's what he needs.
Well, I think just for what it's worth, if they do call Cole Young up to Everett and Axel Sanchez stays in Everett, they'll probably do the exact same thing that they're doing with Arroyo. Like, Cole Young will play some second, Axel Sanchez will play shortstop, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So they could also move Axel Sanchez down to Modesto if they think, he's overmatched.
Okay.
They'll get him at bats. He's too good of a prospect not to play.
Yeah. Reed Van Scoter.
Reed Van Scoter is I watched a lot of Reed Van Scoter. I'm surprised you asked about him. I watched a lot of Reed Van Scoter when he was a draft eligible college guy, and when he was picked, I said, I've watched a lot of Reed Van Scoter. Like, why did we do this? But he's just a crafty guy. Like, he's got 3 pitches, he mixes it up. He'll start slider, he'll start changeup, he'll put you away with an elevated fastball. Like, he just pitches. I mean, he is an older prospect, but he just pitches like well beyond his years, well beyond his league. And I think he could move pretty quick. And you might ask about this guy, so I'm just going to bring it up. Okay. Brandon Schaefer is the exact same way. Like, Brandon Schaefer, crafty, funky, cheap draft pick, nasty stuff. I think he's ultimately going to end up in the bullpen for Seattle, but he's pretty fun.
Yeah, Brian was going to ask you about him here in a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, Brian.
That's okay.
I love Schaefer. I think I tweeted about him when Seattle drafted Brandon Schaefer. I think I said, this might be the steal of the draft. Like, this is really funky in the 13th round. Like, just herky jerky, big slider, big changeup. It works.
Yeah.
Nice.
Any idea when we might see and what we can expect from the Vanilla Missile, aka Walter Ford?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's been 92 to 95. He touched 96. The breaking ball is definitely a work in progress with Walter Ford. The spin rates are huge, but he needs to just feel for shaping it. Seattle, when they draft high school pitchers, and they did this with Morales too, they take a very, very diligent amount of time putting weight onto these players so they can withstand the rigors of what is expected of them. So they bring them on slow. And another thing is, they drafted Walter Ford last year. He still doesn't turn 19 until like November. I mean, he's 18 all season. So I'm sure they're going to bring him on slowly. I think there's a chance that he sees Modesto this year, but I also don't think it's a foregone. Like, he could stay in Arizona all season. Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
Tyler Locklear.
Hope he plays again this season. Really hope he plays again this season. It's a broken hand.
Oh, it's a broken hand.
Okay.
Yeah, broken hand. It might have been a broken knuckle, or it's on his hand, or maybe it's his wrist. It's something in there. They said like 6 weeks. The thing with hands is, man, when you break your hand or your hamate bone or your wrist, like, the power is the last thing to come back. So if he does come back this season, it's probably just going to be reps, like seeing the ball. I wouldn't expect him to have a huge power surge or like press his way into Arkansas this season. I would expect him to just maybe play, the last 2 or 3 weeks of August and then call it a year. Maybe he plays in the Arizona Fall League. I think that would be good for him.
Yeah. TikTok star Sam Carlson.
Oh, Sam Carlson. This is year 7 in the organization. Yeah. I give kudos to the Mariners for moving him to the bullpen because I think that needed to happen. Definitely been a learning curve in there. But I will say the breaking ball is harder. It's got more bite. The fastball command is going to have to improve. There's a lot of life on that pitch, but if Sam Carlson is going to be, frankly, if he's going to be in the organization in the near future, he's going to have to improve his command in general.
Last one here, and the question is, should we let Brian interview him? Because every time he interviews a catcher, we then trade him. That is the trend. So Harry Ford, should Brian interview him and worry about him getting traded?
Oh,
it's
boy.
true.
With where the organization is right now, if you really are afraid of Harry Ford getting traded, I would wait to interview him until next year. The last thing I want to see is Harry Ford traded when the team is 3 games under 500. I mean, he's a special player, special kid. I've interviewed him 2 or 3 times. Great family. Just the best human being, and I root hard for him. So I hope he continues to see success.
Right on.
Two more questions real fast. I'll let Brian get in one last one, but I want to get one more big question here from the producer himself. So with the recent changes, MLB and MILB, with the parent clubs taking a little more active role, you know, and the Mariners being the most profitable team in baseball, there's now talk and push for Everett to improve the facilities, get an actual stadium for the Aquasox. Right now they share facilities with the Everett School District, and it's kind of sad. Yep. You know, is there any chance of the Mariners giving a helping hand, and are there any other teams across the minors potential, you know, the major league clubs helping redo some minor league facilities?
It wouldn't surprise me at all. So one thing that's interesting is minor league baseball, part of the contractual agreement there is they actually have to keep minor league stadiums at a specific like threshold, like a specific regulated. And I don't know what that means in terms of just like run downness, because that field is pretty run down, and it does need a facelift. I love going up there for ball games, but it is very dated, including even the bullpens on the side. Yeah. So, but I mean, it's the Everett School District too. So like, who's going to be pouring money into it? It would be nice to see John Stanton pour even, you know, $50,000 into that stadium just because they're going to be using it so often. And listen, I want to say this because I think it's important. Like, I know John. I've interviewed John a couple of times. I've met John at philanthropic events. He really is a genuinely good person. That's not this like money hungry, like overlord that people seem to think he is. So I definitely understand why people might think he's cheap because where the payroll is, but I promise you he cares about the product a lot more than it might seem like he does.
Oh, that wasn't implied by the question. I just want to make that clear.
I know, but it seems to come up all the time in my mentions. Like, you know, John Stanton's so cheap. He doesn't care about the product. He doesn't care about winning. Could not be farther from the truth. It's why he owns the Walla Walla Suites. He just loves baseball.
Right on.
Millions and millions of dollars. I'd do the same thing. But yeah.
No kidding. Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Maybe because I'm biased because I know the family, but Victor Labrada, is he pretty much done as a prospect, or is he just going to be a fill-in player the rest of his career?
I don't think so. I mean, he's just been hurt so much over the last couple of years. Like, he's got to get his reps. He's still pretty young. If I remember correctly, Labrada's like 24. Like, I don't think he might even be 23.
Yeah.
I think he's 23. So he's still kind of on the younger end of being a prospect. I would say that the clock is definitely ticking because he's been in the organization for so long, and they'd like to see him progress a little bit quicker than he has. Wouldn't surprise me if he's the type of guy that gets his reps in Everett this, let's see, like one more month in Everett, and then he sees Arkansas for the last 4 weeks as a guy that they need to see more of.
Okay. And real quick, I know we got 1 minute left. I was just told.
Go for it.
Robert Perez Jr., aka Bobby Bombs. Does he have a chance?
I haven't checked. Did he come back after he got hit in the head? I don't. Is he still playing? I haven't looked into it. I don't know. I mean, I really like Robert Perez, and frankly, the swing and miss concerns that I have with Robert Perez haven't been quite as bad as I was thinking they were going to be at Everett. He's actually holding his own. So I hope he can come back this season. I hope he can get 6 more weeks of at bats, and I hope he does enough to earn another call to the Arizona Fall League, because that's a guy that I think you want to put in front of really good pitching just to see how he survives. He held his own okay last year, and I think another cup of coffee in the Arizona Fall League might do him good.
Okay.
All right. Well, with that, Joe, where can people find you on social media and with your podcasts and so forth? You want to fill us in on those details?
Sure, man. You can find me at Twitter, Joe Doyle MILB. You can find me at futurestarseries.com, where you can find infinite lists of infinite players for infinite draft classes. It's a great resource, especially on draft day, if you want to read a full scouting report on anybody that the Mariners end up selecting. And then you can find, if you are really into this draft stuff and you really like talking high school and college baseball and you want to hear about the draft that's coming up, I do a weekly show. I'm actually doing it like 2 or 3 times a week right now at patreon.com/overslot. It's $5 a month. And it's a lot of fun. I take a lot of listener questions.
And your Seattle Mariner deep dive went up yesterday or today?
That went up yesterday, I think. I think that was yesterday. Yeah, so you can find 35 minutes of a MLB draft preview for the Mariners over there.
Awesome. Well, we always like to end the show on a positive note. Shout outs. Feel free to name a person, place, thing, whatever, mineral.
I remember this from last
animal, time. Whatever.
I remember this from last time.
Yeah.
Last
Or,
time,
you
guys put me on the spot with this last time, and I was like,
yeah, we'll give you a second. We'll go to Brian first, and we'll buy you some time.
No, I'll go first. I don't mind.
Okay, you go first.
It worked for me last year. Still in a happy relationship. Shout out to my wife for putting up with me.
Awesome.
Right on. I have so many I want to give out, but
yeah, Brian always has like 12.
I'll just give a quick shout out to our past 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. We had Tracy Ringlesby on, baseball beat writer. Everybody knows who Tracy Ringlesby is, a Hall of Famer. We just posted our podcast with him on YouTube today, so please go watch that. And gotta say thank you again, Joe. We appreciate you coming on, man.
Guys, if you want me back more than just once a year, I am happy to join. This is a fun roundtable. I'm surprised we don't do it with cocktails or something.
We should.
Yeah.
Next time we will then.
Maybe we'll do that next time. I'll bring a mule next time.
My shout out is I'm going to give a congratulations again to Jonathan Classe and Harry Ford on being in the Futures game, which I will be at, and I'm looking forward to. I'm really excited. It'll be first time to see such a game. I know it's only the second time the All-Star game in my real potential of going chances to see. But anyway, congrats to them, and I can't wait to see how they do. And with that, thanks for joining us again, Seattle Sports Union. Keep in touch with us on social media on Facebook and Twitter at Seattle Sports U, as well as check out our website at seattlesportsunion.com, and keep listening to our podcast, Spotify, iTunes, wherever podcasts are heard. Now you can hear us and watch us on North Beach Community Television Saturday mornings on channel at 11 a.m. on channel 68. Once again, thanks for our special guest, Joe Doyle, for Brian Soulman Solack, Abraham DeWeese on the boards. I'm Matt Paige, and we'll see you guys next time.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.